Hey, welcome to Plant Yourself. I'm your host, Howard Jacobson. Two quick announcements before we get to today's show. If you're interested in becoming a health coach, I'm offering another run due to popular demand for people who can't make 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights, Eastern Time. So we're doing another run of the program, which will meet, the practicums will meet at 10 a.m. on Wednesdays, Eastern Time, U.S., which means if you're in Europe or Africa, that might be good for you. Also, if you're in the U.S. and evenings aren't good and you have free time in the mornings, either 7 a.m. Pacific time or 10 to 11:30 Eastern, then you can participate. If you want to find out more about becoming a wicked effective health coach, you can go to wellstartcoach.com. Second thing is, if you're not aware of it, Josh Lajani and I have a book that is free on Amazon Kindle. It's called Sick to Fit. And if you just go to Amazon and search for Sick to Fit, you'll be able to download it for free and read it on any Kindle-enabled device, even a phone, smartphone, tablet, computer, whatever. All right, let's get to today's episode. This is the Plant Yourself podcast. I'm Howard Jacobson of plantyourself.com and wellstarthealth.com. This podcast is part of my mission to help you live an athletic and assertive life. So today's conversation is with Shiann Darkangelo, whom I believe is the youngest person I've ever had on the podcast at the age of 25, but Shiann already has an impressive resume and career. She's a professional hockey player for the Toronto Furies in the Canadian Women's Hockey League, so one of the best players in the world. And she's been plant-based for the last 7 years. And she's turned plant-based into more than just a personal protocol. She received a certificate from eCornell from the T. Colin Campbell Nutrition Studies program. She's a plant-based performance coach. She's a mentor to young female athletes. And she's pretty much a ball of energy around this idea that eating plants in as close to their natural state as possible can help us perform better in places where performance is really key, like professional athletics. Now, our conversation was brief. We only talked for 40 minutes, which would make a short podcast. So I want to kind of do a little bit of not so much housekeeping, but just talk for about 10 minutes about where I'm at, where the podcast is at, where WellStart Health is at, and to get some feedback from you guys, from the audience, from the listeners, whom I really regard as partners in this project. So there's a page on Plant Yourself, which is /PYP, plantyourself.com/PYP, that just lists every single podcast in descending chronological order. So the latest ones in the top and way down at the very bottom, the very first ones that I did. And I was going through that, and I'll talk about why in a minute, but just going through that entire list, kind of looking at sort of a time machine, like looking through the wrong end of a telescope and seeing from far back, like what the podcast was, what I thought it was going to be, remembering some very, very awkward moments that I had in conversation, and kind of looking back the way, not to be too full of myself, but the way a professional artist might look back at their childhood sketches. And at the very beginning, almost all of my guests were cookbook authors. And I thought great recipes and innovative meal techniques were like everything that I wanted to talk about because I was all about the food. And then I started morphing into wider topics, talking about movement, talking about psychological health, bringing in some experts from the field from academia to talk about habit change, behavior change, then tapping this vein of people who have made big change, these amazing transformations, people like Josh Lajani, Tim Kaufman, Anthony Masiello, Bethany Janicek, Jason Harper, and really learning more from them than I've learned from any book or any course that I've taken on health behavior or behavior change. And now I'm at number 321 today, and I'm feeling like the podcast wants to move into new directions. It wants to broaden maybe or get more specific in some areas, and I'm not quite sure. I've had this feeling a few times before, and so I'm not rushing to anything. I still have a bunch of episodes lined up. I have a conversation next week with Wayne Jonas, who wrote How Healing Happens. He's really a bigwig if you look him up. Another podcast interview this Friday, which I think will be the next one that you will hear, with my friend, martial arts instructor and mentor, Glenn Murphy. And I think we're going to be talking about technology and how to tech-proof our lives so that we aren't slaves to our devices. I've got a conversation coming up at the end of this month with Philip Shepard, who wrote a book that is blowing me away called Radical Wholeness, that I absolutely recommend. And I can put a link to that in today's show notes. So I have stuff going on, and it feels like the podcast is in a little bit of a cocoon and wants to break out in some way and to become something more, and I'm not quite sure what that is. So sometimes it's easier, as a friend of mine says, it's hard to read the label when you're inside the bottle. So it may already have evolved in ways that I can't see, that I'm just too close to. So I would love it if you have a sense, if you've been a longtime listener and you have a sense of where it's sort of organically going or where you'd like it to go, some unexplored potential that the podcast has, I would love to hear about it. And probably the best way to do that, there's a couple of best ways. One is to go on to Plant Yourself on Facebook, where it's really easy to have conversations. Another is to go to this episode, which will be plantyourself.com/321, and leave a comment. That's a little more cumbersome, but it's always nice to get some website traffic. Or you can email me directly, hj@plantyourself.com. I would love to hear your thoughts. One thought that has been coming up for me is to create a parallel podcast around health coaching. And it would be with me and Josh Lajani and various guest coachees, where we would speak to someone for about half an hour about a specific health issue they're having, or a behavioral issue, a habit they want to form, or a habit they want to break. And that would be publicly available. And then for subscribers to the Patreon channel, Josh and I would do a second call in which we debrief and we speak as coaches one-to-one about that person's issues. So that's an idea. But I'm looking for other ideas, other topics, other areas where maybe people have seen me develop interest and passion, but not really fully explore it. So again, Facebook, blog, or email would be great ways to let me know. Now, I said I would talk about why I was looking at that PYP page, and it's because WellStart Health is in a really fun, interesting position, quite predictable for a startup, which is we are looking for funding prior to what's called a Series A round. We're looking for angel funding. We have seed funding, and we're not quite ready for a Series A. And the reason we're looking for funding is that we just got a contract with one of the largest health insurers, health plans in the nation. And we're looking to build out some amazing features, some amazing technologies to support and service that contract so that this plan, the employees get amazing results, and then their customers get amazing results. And this is how we really move the needle. And once we're successful here, we can pretty much write our own ticket to other companies that are looking to accomplish the same thing. So I was looking through that PYP page to get ideas for previous Plant Yourself guests who might know something about this world of plant-based venture capital, of early stage investment in lifestyle medicine companies, in healthcare companies, and looking for introductions, looking for insights, ideas, and strategies to help us bridge this gap so that we can really be successful and move the needle and grow, be able to hire a lot more coaches, get into a lot more programs, and really change the public conversation about what healthcare should be. The public conversation, as you know, for a long time has been about who should pay for it. And we're talking about what people should be paying for. And instead of waiting till people get sick, helping them learn how to stay healthy. And once people do get sick, instead of medicating them as a first and last resort for the rest of their lives, for the forever pills, teaching them how to reverse disease through lifestyle, through diet, through mindset, through better sleep hygiene, through stress management habits, through social support, through nature, through everything that we know leads to an authentic, complete, healthy, vibrant human life. So I figured I'd just put it out there on the podcast. So if you know something about this world and you think your insights or information could be helpful, just drop me an email, hj@plantyourself.com. Or if you know people who are looking to do something amazing with extra cash, right? I mean, that's how I think about investing. I've got enough for myself, so where can I put it to make the world a better place? And I think there's an argument that what WellStart Health is doing is one of those things. Two quick announcements before we get to today's interview. One is we're starting a new cohort, a public cohort at WellStart Health on May 13th, 2019. You can read all about that at wellstarthealth.com/program. And we now have a system online where you can register and pay all at once. We've really streamlined it for everyone's convenience. Secondly, coach training starts this week. If you're on the fence about, do I want to learn the health coaching techniques that lead to a reliable process for helping clients change, and you think, yes, I'd like to, then today's your last day pretty much. Read all about the program at wellstartcoach.com. If you're interested, you can still sign up for an enrollment interview. And if that goes well and we both agree it would be a good fit, I will send you a link to sign up. The first get to know each other call is tonight. That's Tuesday, May 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you miss it, but still want to take part in the program, that's still possible. But once Friday rolls around and we start with the curriculum, then we're going to be closing it out. And I do not know when we will be offering it again. So now it's time to turn our attention to today's interview. And, the week has been kind of bleak in the news. A report just came out, I think, from the United Nations about extinctions and the precarious state of our planet. And today's episode is really lighthearted. Here's this bright, energetic, photogenic, empowered athlete being a role model for her teammates, for her community, for young athletes everywhere, for young women athletes everywhere. And it's just a delight. We talk about hockey. We talk about what it's like in the locker room to be eating differently than other people. We talk about the training and the pursuit of athletic greatness. And I want to offer this conversation in the spirit of playfulness, in the spirit of let's just go for it today. Let's have fun. Let's make friends. And let's put the best foot forward and the best face possible on this movement of ours that we know can heal the planet, can heal the people, and can heal just about every creation. So without further ado, Shiann Darkangelo, welcome to the Plant Yourself podcast.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you have a great story and really interesting credentials. You're not the run of the mill plant-based, coach and advisor.
Yeah, definitely not.
So let's start with just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm actually 25 years old. I am originally from Brighton, Michigan. I'm currently living in Toronto. I play in the Canadian Women's Ice Hockey League. So for the past 4 seasons out of college, I've been in the NWHL, which is the American League, and then over here in the Canadian Women's Hockey League. I've been plant-based since my sophomore year of college. So it's been about 7 years, 8 going on 8 years now, I think it is.
Uh-huh.
I played in China last year. I've lived in Buffalo, Connecticut, and now here in Toronto, like I already said. So it's been sort of a whirlwind with all the changes. I've also been involved in the U.S. Women's National Program. It's been fun learning more about plant-based eating, living, like the lifestyle. Trying to adapt with hockey and travel and things like that in different cultures, even from last year. So it's super exciting. And, I'm just excited to use my platform and kind of share with people what I do and hopefully can help them maybe make better lifestyle choices.
Cool. So the first thing that kind of blows my mind So, I know a lot of athletes, and I've known a lot of, sort of younger athletes, sort of, high school, like people who are being groomed for great things. And almost all of them focused almost entirely on their sport and like weren't really spending a lot of time pursuing other things. I'm really curious how you came across plant-based nutrition in a world that you were immersed in that I imagine it wasn't a hot topic.
Yeah, definitely not at the time, because I feel like now it would be more normal, so to speak, if somebody, an athlete like myself, decided to go plant-based. If I was, 19 or 20 again now. So actually, one of my mom's really close friends, she is plant-based. And at the time, I was having just stomach issues with our pregame meals and different things. And I don't know if it was from the meat looking back or not totally. And she's the one who had just gotten into it, and she took the plant-based course and got the certification through Dr. T. Colin Campbell through eCornell. And so she suggested it to me, and she'd been reading more and more. So then I was just like, what do I have to lose? Like, might as well just try it for a week or two and see what happens. And then I ended up just sticking with it. So at first I was just cutting out meat. I still ate fish a little bit and dairy, but I've never been like a huge dairy eater. And then progressively, as the years gone on, I started learning and getting more interested, and then cutting different things out. My mom also doesn't eat meat, and my sisters, for the most part, they also are plant-based, I would have to say, but tinker back and forth a little bit. So, and then this past year when I was in China, actually, I got to take that same course, which was awesome. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to just start my own Instagram, maybe my own business with this thing, see what I can do with it, just to post pictures of what I'm eating, what I'm doing here when I'm traveling, and having like sport as my forefront. So yeah.
Wow. So that's cool that you listen to your mom. When I'm thinking about my kids at that age.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, it's kind of shocking actually, but just I guess at the time and how I was feeling, every time we would have chicken for our pregame meals. So it's about 3 hours before you would play, which seems like a decent amount of time in it. But every time I had a stomach ache, and I was like, okay, I need to change something. So I guess at that point I was just open to whatever. And I do think it's kind of funny because looking back when you first do it, people are like, well, and even, I probably had these thoughts like, what do you eat if you take meat out of your diet? But it's just, now it's something I laugh at, right? Because it's like, I'm so used to not basing meals around that sort of thing that it's, there's so many options and so many things, especially once you start cooking and experimenting and things like that.
Yeah. So what did you notice right away when you stopped having the chicken 3 hours before games?
Yeah. Well, obviously my stomach felt better. So that's probably the main reason I stuck with it. Obviously this was a while back now, but yeah, that would be the biggest takeaway, is the reason I stuck to it is because I felt better, right? Or I didn't get those stomach aches. And
do you remember what you ate instead?
I don't. We had like, it was we ate at like this country club type place that was by the university, and I think it was like a side of potatoes that were cut up. I think I just ended up having like vegetables with still the potato, and then if depending on if we were, because that was for home games, right? So if we were away, then they could order me different, like I could choose what I wanted to order, or then I would go back to my apartment and then eat something that I wanted to before.
Gotcha. And did your teammates think it was weird? Did they notice, or was it not a big deal?
I mean, definitely people thought it was, I don't know, weird or just different. They were like, but I didn't really make it a big deal. So I think the coaches were a bit concerned at first. I remember ordering food on the road, and they would be like, where are you going to get your protein? You can't just have a salad or these greens or whatever, which is interesting looking back. But no, I think for the most part, I had a positive. Nobody was really like super negative or pulling against me that I was like, wow, I shouldn't be doing this, or, you know, so that helped. And now with teammates, it's so different because people are asking me questions or wanting to change their diet around, or even just do like meatless Mondays or stuff like that. So it's cool.
So what did you say when your I mean, I'm imagining as someone who was sort of, groomed and prepared to play at this really, the highest level in the world, that you paid a lot of attention to your coaches. And here they were kind of trying to undercut or undermine your new food protocol. Did that shake you at all?
Yeah, I mean, definitely at that time, being 18 years old, you're young, right? And I had just been listening to my mom's friend, so I wasn't as educated, so to speak, but I trust her and really value her opinion and know all the reading and things that she does. So I know where the information is coming from, a good source, I guess. So yeah, it definitely is that you sort of second guess yourself sometimes, right? If someone like that, you're like, wait, I thought this is fine, but like, let me go check my sources now. So at the beginning, it was definitely things that I would either text my mom something, call my mom, ask her, or then her friend, get her opinion, or like, okay, why is it this? Why do I take B12? Like certain things that I wasn't as educated on at the time, then would be like, okay, that makes sense now, and then look up things and kind of just self-learn as you go.
Gotcha. So aside from your stomach feeling better, but right before the game, did you notice any other changes when you switched to more and more plant-based meals?
It's crazy because it's 7 years. It's like, whoa, it's been, it seems like such a long time ago. Like that I'm so used to feeling the way I do now, like when people talk about having more energy and not feeling sluggish or losing weight, things like that. I would say, I mean, it must have been a combination, a little bit of all those things. This is why I stuck with it. And the stricter I got with things, the better I felt, like without eating. Then I feel like then my taste started acquiring different things. And that's why I eventually, years later, I stopped eating fish completely. Not that I would be eating that every week, but, the odd times I would. Now I'm like, oh, why would I ever, like, I just don't. Nothing wrong that I'm like, it doesn't appeal to me or sound good. I would rather have something else over that. And especially now, it's kind of crazy. Even if I eating out at restaurants or someone else's home, you really see the different things people cook with, and especially restaurants, or for example, being in China with all the oils they had over there. That's when I feel like my stomach is more sensitive to things because of how strict I am at home, I guess, or try to be. And like, obviously I'm human, right? So there's times when you eat things that you shouldn't be, or, have a cheat meal here or there stuff. But I can definitely tell those different sensitivities with dairy or oil, whatever it is, that I'm like, oh, I normally do not cook with this or eat this. So I feel it.
So since you have to perform at such a high level, I'm guessing that you have a lot less tolerance and a lot more sensitivity to when you are slightly off your meal plan. Like you're fueling yourself for performance. Most people don't think of themselves as eating so they can perform.
Yeah, definitely. It's a different approach, but it seems crazy as a non-athlete maybe, but it's something that's so instilled in you. I feel like from a young age, getting to play in the U18 national team, and then playing travel hockey growing up, and then going to college and playing with the national team, and now to pro. It's like you build that regimen every day, like game days. You could do it in your sleep, because it's all, I do the same thing, routine, daily or try to stick to those things. And yes, things happen, your schedule changes up, and and you got to learn how to manage everything, especially with your meals, as that's something people probably don't think about as much as I would. If they miss a meal, this or that, where sometimes training and other things is based around your meals, right? That's like more of the difference. Okay, what am I going to have here? Okay, I got to go drive to the rink. So do I need to bring snacks, fruit before? What do I want for afterwards? So I can eat something right after, then until I get home to make something. Traveling on planes, stuff like that. Yeah, it's definitely I guess food is a bigger part of your life in that sense, or just planning things around it.
Yeah. So do your teammates who are not plant-based kind of go through the same level of thinking about food, or do they have it easier because they have more options at their disposal?
Yes and no, I guess. There's always athletes who are more into the nutrition, I guess, side of things. And then there's some people who, I think at every level, men's and women's sports, there's those athletes that are particular about it and make it a part. Like you said, they realize that the food fuels them for practice games, the next day. And then there's people who don't see that. But yes, eating animal products and not being plant-based, I guess, when nutritionists or people on staff bring food to the rink for snacks in between, there is more options for them rather than a plant-based eater. But I do feel like it has changed over the years, and I've noticed that in it, or just having fruit for in between periods in a game, nuts, stuff that like I would pack anyways. And I still bring things so that I'm not stuck if there is nothing, right?
Uh-huh.
But,
right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it sounds like you bring your food to a game or a practice the same way you'd bring like your gloves or like any other piece of necessary equipment.
Yeah, definitely. You could, that would be a good way to look at it. I usually pack a cooler, even on practice days for, we practice later now here. So it kind of just depends. How, like, my schedule was completely different last year, but, so I'll eat before, and then I'll have a cooler for if I need snacks while I'm down there, and then post practice, because I have a decent drive home. So, that way you're just always prepared. So, because you're always going to be hungry after, right? And if you are, then that's when bad choices usually come into play, or you're spending money on things that you don't want to, and things like that, just for the convenience. So a lot of people trade the time for the convenience. So it helps to plan ahead and be prepared.
So I've never played ice hockey. I've skated in rinks, and I've been pretty cold. Do you burn a lot of calories because of the thermal exchange playing ice hockey and practicing on an ice rink?
I think I don't know. I'm trying to think with wearing the heart rate monitors and stuff. You're up around 1,000 to 2,000 calories in a game. Just depends, obviously, the player, how in shape you are, things like that. Your heart rate, and but I mean, like any sport, right? You kind of, once you start playing and sweating and moving, and that in the equipment stuff, your body's at a pretty normal temperature. It's not as cold as you would think. Although I know watching games is definitely much colder than being on the ice and suited up in equipment skating.
Uh-huh. Gotcha. So you don't have to worry. It's not like Michael Phelps has to eat 12,000 calories a day because he's in a pool. You don't have to.
No. It's not to his to that extreme at all. I mean, I guess if you were training as many hours as he does, I think he does 3 or 4 sessions in a day was when he was eating that many calories. But no, it's a way less than that. So.
Okay.
I mean, most, like if with the national team when we were at camps, or even the most you're on the ice is twice a day, and then you would do like a lift or something if you're in, have testing or things like that. Depends what part of the season you're in, right?
What, testing?
Yeah, just like for the beginning of seasons, testing off ice, on ice,
Okay.
speed, strength, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. So you mentioned that your teammates are now starting to ask you questions. What did they start noticing that made them curious?
It's hard to pick out one specific thing. I mean, I did start my own business, which is plant-based performance. So I'm on Instagram with that and just taking pictures of different things that I cook and make. And teammates, I mean, I'm pretty close with most of them. So obviously just through talking, being together when I order food, right, different things, they realize that. And maybe just snacks I bring to the rink. Not that it's anything crazy, you know, it'd just be fruit, nuts, things that anyone could eat or would eat. Just different things like that bring up conversations and get them asking different things. And then, you know, just curious, because I do feel like it's such a growing thing right now, but it's not as much, you don't see it as much in like ice hockey or different sports. I do feel like being vegan, plant-based, vegetarian seems to be more in a like aerobic sport, I guess, like running, triathlons, I feel. And maybe that's bad to stereotype that into it. But I do feel like it's transitioning now, and you're hearing more about people, if they're not going 100% plant-based, at least leaning towards that way. Or there's like the blue zone diets now and different things like that, which is kind of cool to see. So
Right. And also
more aware.
Yeah, I'm not sure like what the age ranges are, typically for women's ice hockey. But you can get away with a lot more at 25 than at 35 or 40, right? In terms of the effects of food on performance.
Definitely. And most girls, I would say, are done. Like, it just depends if you're still with the national program. And now, before I graduated college in 2015, there was not I guess I should back up. The Canadian Women's Hockey League existed, but the NWHL, which is the National Women's Hockey League that's in the States, did not exist. The first year of the league was when I graduated. So it's definitely different now for girls coming out of college. I think you're going to see girls playing longer and stuff, depending on how pay goes and how the leagues go and if they come together and such. But then before that, and even now, if you weren't in a national program, then usually your career ended after college, right? So now we're able to continue to play and go for those. And so I would say most girls are done before the age of 30, but then there are a few that play till 34, 35. Some of them have some of the Olympians and things like that.
Uh-huh. Gotcha. So when you went into the professional leagues, you don't really have an expectation of like, this is what a career for women looks like, because you're kind of blazing the trail, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like my first year out of college, I played for the Connecticut Whale, because I graduated from Quinnipiac and the team was like, I think a half hour from where I was. And I was like, you know what? We heard about it. And I wasn't really sure at the time. I was in the national program, so I was in the player pool. And I was like, well, I'm going to keep playing. So it's like, why not check this out? Otherwise, I would have just probably found a boys team to skate with, train with my trainers at home, to stay in shape for camps that we had with the U.S. team. But this came about, and it was like there was a few girls I graduated with, and we're like, well, we might as well go check it out, see if it's real. They were saying they were going to pay us X amount and stuff, and I was like, this, and it turned out, the first year was awesome. Like, they pretty much delivered on most of the things that I was a little skeptical on, I'm not going to lie. So yeah, we are definitely the trailblazers for that. The Canadian Women's Hockey League has been around a bit longer, but at the time, the girls here weren't getting paid. And so a lot of the girls jumped over to that league. And so there's been a lot of stuff in between leagues and stuff, but I think it's starting to go in the right direction. And hopefully for girls coming out of college will be much better. And, they'll have road somewhat paved out for them.
Mm-hmm. So do you have a sense of what sort of platform sports, ice hockey gives you and will give you going forward? And I'm thinking of, football players and basketball players who go plant-based have this, tremendous platform. Everyone's interested in it. Do you have a sense of what exists now and what the women's hockey movement will grow into in terms of your ability to get known and influence people?
Yeah. Let me just think on that for a second. Yeah, I mean, I guess your platform's like as big as you make it, right? I know that women's hockey is a smaller category, I guess, on the map of sports right now, and hopefully we can continue to grow. And as it's growing, being a part of the national teams, winning world championship, winning the Isabel Cup in the NWHL, now being in the CWHL here, playing in China last year, definitely just using those accolades to promote myself, I guess, to get people to recognize, oh, look what she could do on a plant-based diet, So I just want to use those strengths and gifts that I've been given to help other people. And you never know, I love sports, and I'm not really sure the direction when I'm done playing what I want to do. I coach a little bit, not that I don't think I want to coach, but that's just another way to get my name out there to young players and, get them to see, oh, she's plant-based, look up to you and maybe do the same things, or try to take some of the things that you have taught them and use that. And yeah, I don't know. It also helps being an athlete, connecting with other athletes now through social media chains and things like that. You never know what can come of it. Even having my other Instagram account, it's just interesting, all the different things. It's not even that big yet. And different people that have reached out to me through that, or even on my own because of that. And it's kind of cool to see, because when you just open up that part of your life, then people can see it and are more apt to ask questions and want to learn more about it, I guess.
Right. So do you get a chance to just go around and hang with girls, young girls who might be interested in athletics, but who never considered ice hockey? Are you kind of an aspirational role model?
Yeah, but not as much as usually when we do a lot of different volunteer events and stuff like that. Last year I got to do more of that because when I was in China, I was strictly just playing hockey. And this year I'm really focused on that also, obviously, but a lot of girls on our team, we practice super late at night, have other jobs because, they need to supplement the income that we're getting. It's not something that you can train full time off this. Last year I was able to do that, and years before I was fortunate because of the national programs. So we have different volunteer events here and there, but generally they're with girls that already are playing hockey or just started the first time on the ice, girls and boys actually. Uh-huh. Now last year in China it was kind of cool because I did get the opportunity to go to, I went to a school and different stuff where kids did not know anything about hockey. So then they were teaching simple things and just, hanging out with and that's totally different, hanging out with a different culture and things. So they're just amazed from all different angles, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, so the picture, I guess it was the Great Wall, you taking a selfie.
Yeah.
That's on your website. And tell everyone what your website is. Is it the Wix site, or do you have your own domain yet?
No, that's very new. The Wix site that I put up there, I actually was just I better get this up, sooner than later. Just because, again, I'm trying to figure out what direction I want to go with it. So I'm doing most things through Instagram, but I do have the website up just so I can, if anyone's interested, to send emails and things like that. But as I said, I've gotten a lot of messages through Instagram already, because I do feel like that's more of a platform now,
right, with
this generation.
All right. Yeah, and your Instagram account is plant_based performance.
Correct.
So I'm there right now, and I'm taking a look, and I'm kind of struck because the first thing I noticed is that it's all food photos, and they're kind of photographically stylized, like they're pictures from above on over these beautiful wooden boards, and they're clearly like nicely done. There's not like stains and splatter like the way my food tends to look, and at the same time they're pretty simple. They're not like gourmet or stylized. How did you come to kind of that style or that strategy, or like what goes into your thinking when you put together an Instagram worthy meal?
Yeah, well, for me, I just wanted it to be, obviously with the cutting board being in the background and taking the pictures the same, just I feel like gives it a better look on your Instagram to make it more appealing for the viewer to want to come and look at your page. Just as an Instagram, somebody being on Instagram, those are things that I look for. But two, with the picture, like you said it perfectly. It doesn't look super crazy. It doesn't look like I had take an hour or two to take this photo, or cook the meal. And that's what I wanted. I was just going for to be like, look how simple it can be. And I think for me, I'm not sure, but this is how I wanted the pictures to look like, oh, I could make that, because there's so many things I see on Instagram that I'm like, wow, that looks amazing. And that I have tried to make, and I'm like, wow, maybe it tasted good, but it did not look like the picture had.
Yeah.
So just trying to be more real, I guess, and not editing the photos so much so that the food does look like what's on my plate. Obviously, it's a little bit messier when you eat it. So yeah, usually when I cook a meal, then I'll just I do all my certain things. It takes me honestly like 3 to 5 minutes though. Just put it on the cutting board, put it however I want, take the photo, and then post it on Instagram with my few of the ingredients.
Right. For a lot of this, it looks like, the ingredients are the recipe, right?
Yep.
Like, whoa, how do you make that? Well, you just mix together rice, asparagus, mushroom, onion, broccoli, and throw in, cook in vegetable broth. Like, oh, okay. Like, I find people very often want such hand-holding, like the exact recipe, the exact steps, the exact amounts. And your stuff kind of looks like, take a bunch of good stuff, throw it together, and eat it. Yeah,
essentially. I didn't want to get into, because I definitely agree with you with like 1 cup of this, a teaspoon of this, tablespoon of that. And to me, I'm just like, okay, well, when I'm cooking, obviously baking's a little different. You need to follow some sort of measurements. But like for cooking different things, I'm like, I just want it to be more of a real whole food, plant-based sort of style of thing, just demonstrating like it's easy to use whole foods, and there's so many different things you can use and make with a lot of the same ingredients, honestly, even. But yeah, I just wanted to make it as simple as possible, quick, and realistic for viewers.
All right. So who's following you? What sort of feedback are you getting?
A decent amount of athletes, actually. That there's been a few different athletes that have reached out to me that have other companies and things, and vegan companies, plant-based companies, people wanting to collaborate, things like that, and that have looked at my personal account then from this, and vice versa.
So are you sort of moving in that direction, like looking towards like career after professional hockey, like in the plant-based world?
I think so. I definitely think it'll be something. I mean, it's a part of me for sure. I do believe it's a lifestyle, not just a diet that you do here and there. So it is something, that I'll always be into and interested in learning more, and continue to read and learn as new things come out. I'm not sure at this point. Yes, I would like to do something with it. I'm not exactly positive on what. I feel like there's a lot of fitness people out there, dietitians, such on Instagram, doing meal plans and things like that. And yeah, I think it's interesting for a bit, but creating meal plans is also not something that I want to do or want to believe in as much of. Like, obviously, yes, you need to pay attention to what you're eating, tracking different things that if you're trying to gain weight, lose weight, this and that. But I think if you're on a whole foods plant-based diet, then you don't need to be so concerned about counting calories and things like that, because when you're eating whole foods, you're going to be full before you overeat. So I don't know. I will continue to get educated on the topic and, look at opportunities with other people and see, I guess, just kind of see what comes about. I think it would be cool to stay in sport and influence people in that realm.
Right. So you started off eating, like, eliminating chicken, eating more and more plant-based for just how you felt. Have your reasons shifted or increased? Are there other, you mentioned like plant-based, but also vegan, like, are there, how else, do you think about your food choices beyond just feeling okay and performing well?
Yeah, they've definitely increased my feelings towards it on feeling better for personal reasons, I guess. But then also after taking the eCornell class, just realizing like environmental reasons or different aspects like that of why people are plant-based and things do open your eyes a bit. And those are some things. Obviously, those weren't the reasons that pursued me to begin this journey, but they definitely are things that are more eye-opening and that are like, whoa, on a bigger realm, look at these things that we're doing, excuse me, to the environment that we live in, and our farms and all these things that, from a government standpoint, that's much bigger than ourselves, and that the bigger we build this community, the bigger influence we could make, on decisions like that. And I think that would be a cool thing, to be able to change things like that, how our food's produced and why people choose the things they do, and why we look at food the way we do, and such. So
right. Nice. So are you mentioned, other plant-based athletes follow you on Instagram and are connecting with you. Is there like a secret Facebook group or how do plant-based athletes find each other?
There's not one that I know of, but that would be a good idea. And honestly, I just think it's just as like, how do athletes find each other on Instagram? Plant-based is just another subcategory of that, I think. I don't know, maybe searching different hashtags. I'm not really sure, but I don't know if your profiles now, I'm like, there's so many different things that pops up because you search this or because you look up that. So that could be a way that Instagram in itself, like the algorithms and stuff connect you to those people. I'm not sure. But it's definitely cool. It's a cool way to interact with people on the same journey as you, okay, or choosing the same lifestyle choices.
Nice. So can people in the U.S. get to watch you play, or are you just playing in Canada right now?
So we have one team in our league from the U.S., which is in Boston. So, but then we're also you can watch us online, most of our games on the CWHL. And I mean, some like Toronto, where I'm at right now, is a little over 3 hours from Michigan, actually less from Michigan, from where I'm from. So that's not too bad of a drive. But the other teams there's another team in Markham, which is close to here, then Calgary, Montreal, then, like I said, in Boston, which is still far, but it's in the States, and then a team in China. So. All
right. So I'll get the link from you. I'll get the link from you for online games so people can can follow you.
Okay, awesome.
And I'll also include a link to your website. I noticed you on the Wix site, which is kind of a long, convoluted name, but just go to the show notes for today's episode, and people will find it. That you offer coaching to help people.
If someone who's interested, it's something that I'm like, you know what, I'll just dabble with it and see what happens, because I've done things like that with teammates and having conversations and kind of talking about someone's side and walking them through it or how they would transition, because it's so hard to put up a specific meal plan. I think I had like a 5-day free one that was just like simple recipes. This is when I started my Instagram. But I didn't really want to go in that direction, because I do feel like sitting down and talking with someone or having an hour conversation over the phone, whatever it is much easier to understand. Okay, I eat this, this, and this. And like, let's try and take steps, because it is a lifestyle. So to make a drastic change from somebody who's eating meat 3 or 4 times a week and, all these different things, to tell them, okay, cut all this out. Like it's not as realistic to stick to that. So that's kind of where the coaching part got brought in, or where I wanted that to go.
Gotcha. So for folks, it sounds like for folks who are serious athletes and are looking to both, for ideas about transitioning and reassurance, and also, your Instagram style of no nonsense, very hearty, very filling, very nutrition packed meals that you'd be a good person for them to talk to a few sessions.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, even the normal person who is just trying to live a better lifestyle, I would be more than happy to talk to. Like, I'm just as interested in somebody changing. I think it's awesome that it's something that you can control. So if that's something that you want to take your next steps in, then I would love that to be with me, obviously. But yes, being an athlete, I obviously love communicating with athletes as well. But I would never cut myself off from non-athletes too. So. Sure.
All right. Well, Shiann, thank you so much for taking the time, for your advocacy, and for putting it all on the line every time you go out on the ice.
Yeah, thank you, Howard, for having me. It's been awesome. It's been great talking with you.
All right. Well, go from strength to strength, and we'll all be following your career and your Instagram with great interest.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Take care. All right. If you enjoyed this episode of the Plant Yourself podcast, and isn't Shiann just wonderful, and you'd like to support the mission of the show, you can subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. And for more information about WellStart Health and our upcoming cohort starting next week, go to wellstarthealth.com/program. And the show notes for today's episode with links to Shiann's website and Instagram and her hockey team, and also the book that I mentioned in the introduction, Radical Wholeness. You can find that at plantyourself.com/321. And if you're new to this show, you can catch up on hundreds of archived episodes over at plantyourself.com. A reminder that Plant Yourself is free for those who cannot afford it and supported by those who can. If you'd like to become a supporter, you can head on over to Patreon and just search for Plant Yourself, or you can head over to Plant Yourself and click the Patreon link in the right sidebar. And every subscriber gets access to about 36 of my healthy habit huddles, which people have told me have been really helpful in allowing them to shed old bad habits and adopt new good ones. In garden news, the blueberry bushes have blossomed and are now fruiting, and it's very exciting. My wife has been planting like crazy, so we got some squash in the ground, summer squash. We've got a lot of basil, green beans. The peas never came up. But we've got a bunch of potatoes planted, and so now we're in this anticipatory stage. I think she's threw in a couple of cherry tomato plants this morning, and we're just waiting and watching, and she's doing all the weeding and watering, so I'm doing the waiting and watching, but it looks like it's going to be a delicious harvest, and I'm hoping that the muscadine scuppernong grapevine does better this year than it's done the last 2 years. We had 0 grapes 2 years ago. This past year, we had about 30 grapes, and about 10 of them were ready to eat. So I've left it alone. I have not pruned it. I have not done anything to it. And we'll see if just benign neglect allows it to come back to its full glory. In running news, I did a good run this morning. It was 6 miles at about a 9:16 pace, and it was kind of hilly. And the best thing was it kind of felt effortless. So I'm still working on this plantar fasciitis, and I was able to pump it up. I ran with a heart rate monitor. I haven't done that in a while, and I was able to be in zone 2 pretty happily for almost an hour. So yippee. This coming weekend, I have the Umstead half marathon. Looking forward to seeing a whole bunch of friends at that. And I'm thinking of using the summer for 5Ks and 10Ks. And also my Frisbee team is going to be playing in the regionals in Atlanta. And if we make it, then the nationals in Denver throughout the summer. So there's going to be lots of sprints in my future. All right, time for thanks. Thanks, of course, to Will Ridenauer for allowing me to use Sabali Dawn, the Dance of Peace, as the theme music for Plant Yourself. Check out willridenauer.com for more of his lovely West African kora music. And of course, thanks to all of you Plant Yourself podcast patrons. There's a new name this week, so hang on and listen for it. Here we go. Kim Harrison, Lynn McClellan, Anthony Edition, Brittany Porter, Dominic Mara, Barbara Whitney, Tammy Black, Amy Good, Amanda Hatherley, Mary Jane Wheeler, Ellen Kennelly, Melissa Cobb, Rachel Burns, Christine Nielsen, Tina Scharf, Tina Ahern, Jen Volkanovsky, David Bizek, The Mysterious, Michelle X, Elspeth Feldman, Victoria Dolomanova, Leah Stoller, Alan Christensen, Colleen Peck, Michelle Andrews, Josina, Julianne Roland, Dolnick, Sarah Durkis, Ramses Circus, Kelly Cameron, Wayne Pedersen, Leanne Peterson, Janet Selby, Claire Adams, Sam Francis, Jeanette Benham, Gila, Sarah, David Donahue, Blair Cyber, Dorona Vizo, Joanne Carolyn Argentati, Jody Friesner, Ruth Ann Thunderberg, Misha Rosen, Michael Warbeck. The equally mysterious Tracy Z, Alicia Lemus, Rebecca Hughes, Val Linneman, Rhymes with Cinnamon, Nick Harper, Stephanie Holmes, Martha Bergner, Nicole Ramsey, Susan Ahmad, Molly Levine, The Inscrutable Harry R, Susan Laverty, The Panda Vegan, Craig Kovic, Adam Scharf, Karen Berry, Heather Morgan, Ashley Corcoran, Kelly Machia, Deanne Norton, Don Bonnie Lynch of Plant Happy Oregon, Sabina Kurtzels, Nigel Davies, Marion Blum, Teresa Copel, Shell Rootless, Julian Watkins, Breed O'Connell, Brian Sheridan, Shannon Hirschman, Kate Rosalind, Ayat, Julie Langholm, Hedekard, Isa Tuzin, Connie Hainline, Aaron Greer, Alicia Davis, Aviva L, Heather O'Connor, Carolyn Jensen. Sherry Orlikoski of Plant Powered for Health, Karen Smith, Scott Morani, Karen Joe Crabtree, Tanya Lewis, Kirby Burton, Teresa Carell, Kevin McCauley, Elizabeth Rothschild, Kelly Baker Miracle, Ann Jesse, Cheryl Dwyer, Jenny Hazelton, Valerie Peltier, Peter W. Evans, Colleen Harrison, Justine Divitt, Joshua Summermeyer, Dennis Bird, Darby Kelly, Lori Fanny, Linnea Lundquist, Valerie Hummel, Deb Casilla, Emily Iaconelli, Levy Wallach, Rosamund McAtee, Dan Picorni, Stephen Lehman, Patty DiMartino, Mike Nadakarski, Ann Bishop, Bill Brielle, Gunther Schmidt, Marjorie Lewis, Kelly Molden, Tricia Adams, Ian Kramer, Nancy Sheldon, Lindsay Bayshore, Gunmarie Hagen, Tracy Gullidge, Laura Heaton, Meg for Mama Says, and Rochelle Kennedy. Thanks for your generous support of the podcast. That's it for this week. As always, be well, my friends. So if you appreciate the Plant Yourself podcast and would like to help support the mission of the show, there's a few easy ways to do it. One is to just go to wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review. Let other people know about it. Give us some stars. Give us some love. And that really helps us be found by more people. Something else, of course, you can do is let someone know about this podcast. Someone who you think would benefit. Send them maybe a couple of episodes that you think would pique their interest, or just ask them to subscribe in general. And third, you can join arms and become a patron, a financial supporter of this show. You may have noticed that there's no advertising in the show, and it's free for everyone, and it's supported, paid for by those who can afford it. So if you would like to make a one-time contribution or an ongoing monthly pledge, you can do so at plantyourself.com/gift. All right, time for thanks. Thanks to Will Ridenauer for allowing me to use his beautiful song, Sabali Dawn, the Dance of Peace. You can find more of Will's music at his website, willridenauer.com. And of course, thanks to all of you Plant Yourself podcast patrons. Kim Harrison, Lynn McClellan, Anthony Disson, Brittany Porter, Dominic Maurer, Barbara Whitney, Tammy Black, Amy Good, Amanda Hatherley, Mary Jean Wheeler, Ellen Kennelly, Melissa Cobb, Rachel Behrens, Christine Nielsen, Tina Scharf, Tina Ahern, Jen Volkanovsky, David Bizek, The Mysterious, Michelle X, Elspeth Feldman, Leah Stoller, Alan Christensen, Colleen Peck, Michelle Andrews, Josina, Sarah Durkis, Rhymes with Circus, Kelly Cameron, Wayne Pedersen, Janet Selby, Kara Adams, Tom Franzek, Jeanette Benham, Gila Sarah, David Donahue, Blair Cyber, Torona Vizo, Gio and Carol Argentati, Jody Friesner, Ruth Ann Thunderberg, Misha Rosen, Michael Warbeck. The equally mysterious Tracy Z, Aviva L, Alicia Lemus, Rebecca Hughes, Val Linneman, rhymes with cinnamon, Nick Harperson, Martha Bergner, Susan Amand, Molly Levine, the inscrutable Harry R, Susan Laverty, the Panda Vegan, Craig Kovic, Adam Scharf, Karen Burry, Heather Morgan, Kelly Machia, Deanne Norton, Bonnie Lynch, Plant Happy Oregon, Sabina Kurtzels, Nigel Davies, Marion Blum, Teresa Copel, Julian Watkins, Breed O'Connell, Shannon Hirschman, Linda Ayat, Holm Hedegaard, Isa Tuzawa, Connie Hainline, Aaron Greer, Alicia Davis, Heather O'Connor, Carolyn Jensen, Sherry Orlikowski of Plant Powered for Health, Karen Smith, Scott Morani, Karen and Joe Crabtree, Tanya Lewis, Kirby Burton, Teresa Carell, Kevin McCauley, Elizabeth Rothschild, Ann Jesse, Cheryl Dwyer, Jenny Hazelton, Valerie Peltier, Peter W. Evans, Colleen Harrison, Justine Divitt, Joshua Summermeyer, Dennis Berg, Darmy Kelly, Laurie Fanny, Linnea Lundquist, Valerie Hummel, Emily Iaconelli, Levy Wallach, Rosamund McAtee, Dan McCorney, Stephen Leenan, Patty DiMartino, Mike and Donna Kartz, Deanne Bishop, Bill Brielf, Gunter Schmidt, Marjorie Lewis, Kelly Molden, Tricia Adams, Ian Kramer, Nancy Sheldon, Lindsay Bayshore, Gunn-Marie Hagan, Tracy Gullis, Laura Heaton, Meg from Mama Says, Rochelle Kennedy, Diana Goldman, Stacey Stokes, Ben Savage, Michael Kay, Holly Butler, Diana, David Hughes, Connie Rogers, Claire England, Sally Robertson, Param Ganchi, Amy Daly, Brian Tourville, Mark Jeffrey Johnson, Josie Dempsey, Karen Schmidt, Pamela Hayden, Emily Perryman, Olga Sidorowska, Allison Corbett, Richard Stone, Lauren Vaught of Edible Musings, Aaron Hasty, Sean Owen, Sagar Nayak, Erica Piedra, and Danielle Roberts for your generous support of the podcast. That's it for today. As always, be well, my friends.